Hello learners, welcome to NIOS Studio. This is our Senior Secondary Environmental Science course of NIOS. I am Nilam Gupta, course coordinator of Environmental Science. Welcome you all in this program. As we know learners, we need energy to do work, any work we can say. We got energy from food to do our all works. Plants get energy from sun to prepare their own food, from water, sunlight, minerals. And when we talk about vehicles, so vehicles work due to petrol, diesel, CNG as a fuel. So we can say that energy is the capacity to do work and power is the rate of energy delivery. And energy is essential for more activities of modern society, and its use or consumption is generally taken as an index of standard of living, and we use energy in the form of firewood, fossil fuels and electricity to make our life comfortable and convenient. At home, when we talk about home, so we use electricity for our lights and fans, air conditioners, water heater and room heaters. Also we use microwave, oven, washing machine, dryer, and for all these appliances we use electricity. We use diesel, petrol, CNG for our vehicles, includes car, buses, autos. So large amount of energy is used also in agriculture and industry as well. So when we talk about if we are working, so we in office, we use energy to run ACs, fans, computer, photocopying machine, lights and many other gadgets which are required for office use. So when we use fossil fuel to run buses, trucks, train, airplane, so transportation uses a large percentage of all the energy used. So during this program we will discuss about importance of energy in society, and this is lesson number 27 of your module 8B, energy and environment. This is an optional module of your environmental science course. So during this program we will discuss about concept of energy, importances of energy of a human society, and law of thermodynamics, first and second law we will discuss, and various sources of energy include renewable energy resources, non-renewable energy resources and nuclear energy too. So let us begin with this program by how we define energy. So as we have already discussed, ability to do work is known as energy, and energy from the sun gives us light during the day. Sunlight dries our clothes when they are hanging outside on a clothesline. Solar energy helps plants to and crop to grow, and this energy stored in plants is eaten by the animals, giving them energy. When herbivores or animals, that those eaten plants eat predator animals which gives energy to them. So now we move to the law of thermodynamics. So first, who discovered this law? So scientists named Julius Robert Mayer and James Prescott Joule are generally considered to be the creator of the first law of thermodynamics in 1840s. And Nicholas Leonard Sadi-Carnot is often described as a father of thermodynamics. We take example because we know ultimate source of energy is on the earth is solar energy or sunlight. So energy of the sunlight is absorbed by the green plants during the process of photosynthesis. This solar energy is stored as chemical energy in the form of food or biomass. In case of human being, how do human being got energy? When we eat food, our body transports this energy stored in food into energy to do our all works. When we talk, run or walk, either think or read, we burn food energy in our body, but where does energy comes from? So there are laws which governs the energy. So first law of thermodynamics deals with the conservation of energy, and this law states that energy cannot be created or destroyed, but can only change from one form to another. When we talk about second law of thermodynamics, it says that In every energy transformation, some energy is always lost in the form of heat, which is unavailable to do further useful work, or we can say no energy transformation is 100% efficient. That it means at each energy transformation some energy is lost as waste heat and dissipated into the environment. So, everyone has familiar about heat, because we all know how it feels in hot summer and cold winter days. The degree of hotness of a body can be measured with a thermometer, which thermometer contains a fluid that expands as the temperature rises, that is mercury. And heat is one of the many forms that energy can take, and heat is one form of energy into which all the other forms of energy can be fully converted. So, how do we measure heat? Unit of heat is calorie or joule. This calorie or joule is used to express the amount of energy. When we define calorie or a gram calorie is the amount of heat required to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water through 1 degree centigrade, and it is the unit of in which energy value of food or any other organic matter is expressed, although it is now being replaced by joules. And how can we define joule? Joule is a practical unit of work, and it is derived SI unit of energy or work, being the work done when a force of 1 Newton displaces the point by 1 meter. So, now we move to the sources of energy, and it is important for us to know about the various sources of energy, as it is essential for us in our lives. And it may be two types of sources of energy found on earth, that is renewable energy and non-renewable energy. Renewable energy are the sources, energy sources that we can use over and over again, but in case of non-renewable energy, when the energy sources cannot be reused. So, we define renewable sources as a term to describe energy that comes from the sources whose supplies are regenerative and virtually inexhaustible, and these sources can be replenished in a short period of time. And this some of the renewable energy sources are solar energy, biomass, biodiesel, hydropower, wind energy, wave energy, ocean thermal energy, geothermal energy, and fuel cell technology. The most common energy received on our planet Earth is the sunlight or solar energy, is the direct sunlight. So, we will talk about detail in solar. We will talk about solar energy in little bit detail. So, solar energy is inexhaustible, and it comes to earth in the form of visible light and infrared radiation. And we have always used the energy of the sun as far as back human have existed on this planet, and people worship sun as a sun god, because it is the solar energy which runs the earth. Every day we use energy of the sun in many different ways. Without sunlight or solar energy, life would not exist on our planet. Plants use sunlight to make their food. Animal use plants as food. Decaying of plants hundreds of millions of years ago produce fossil fuels in the form of coal, oil, and natural gas. So, we can say what we use today is actually sunlight stored millions and millions of years ago. So, this energy can be harnessed in a variety of ways to heat homes, heat water, grow plants, and produce electricity. And solar power includes various modes of forms, that is active mode, passive, and photovoltaic technology and their practices. So, next energy is biomass energy or bioenergy, is the energy from organic matter like firewood, twigs, dead plant parts, cattle dung, livestock manure, and dead animal matter. Plants' leaves convert sunlight into chemical energy, which is stored in the plant. So, when animal eats this plant, store a chemical energy in their body, some of it also remains in manure and other waste too. Biomass fuels are renewable because the raw materials can be produced simply by growing more crops and collecting more organic waste. The use of renewable energy is not new. Traditionally, wood has been as a main source of energy for thousands of years, ever since human civilization started. But when human discovered fire, then started burning wood to cook food or keep to warm. Even today, we know firewood and crop residue form the largest biomass energy sources and is used by the rural communities and forests developed nowadays too. So, biogas can be produced from cattle dung, human feces and other organic waste by the process called anaerobic digestion in a biogas plant, and this gas is clean, non-polluting and low cost fuel. Biomass fuels are obtained from agriculture waste, alcohol fuels, animal waste and municipal solid waste. Now, the biomass which would normally present a disposal problem is converted into electricity. Example, we can take manufacturing waste, rice hulk and black liquor from paper production. But many other sources of biomass can now be used, including plant residue from agriculture or forestry and the organic component of municipal and industrial waste. So, nowadays alternatives of using biomass are still discovered. So, one way is to produce ethanol, a liquid alcohol fluid from biomass, unlike other renewable energy sources. So, next we talk about biomass can be converted directly into liquid fuels or biofuels that are derived from organic materials like plant, algae and animal waste, and common type of biomass include ethanol from grains and biodiesel for our transportation needs, and common type of biofuels are ethanol and biodiesel. So, we will talk about biodiesel. Biodiesel is obtained by trans-electrification of the vegetable oils. Trans-electrification is a process of dehydration of alcohol to form ethers. So, electrification is an attractive process that can be used to convert glycerol into value added products in the production of a fuel additive, because it plays an important role in glycerol conversion reaction. Consumer demands for clean renewable energy have stimulated growth in green power like solar power, wind power, geothermal energy, biomass and hydroelectric sources of power. Oil-rich seeds of the wild plant rich in non-edible oils are the potential source of biodiesel, and common or favorite seeds are seeds of Pongamia, Jatropha and neem for producing biodiesel. So, next we will talk about hydroelectric power or hydropower. Hydro means water. So, flowing water creates energy that can be captured and turned into electricity. So, this is that is why we call this hydroelectric power or hydropower. Hydro energy from water is also a renewable sources, and hydropower is the energy which is produced by the action of falling water, turning a water wheel, propeller or turbine. So, almost all hydroelectric energy is used to produce electricity, although early pioneers built water wheels to grind grains and operate other machineries too. Most common type of hydroelectric power plant uses a dam or on a river to store water in a reservoir. And another type of hydroelectric power plant is called a pump storage plant that can even store power too. So, next we will talk about hydroelectric power plant. The power is sent from a power grid to into the electric generators, and these generators then spin the turbine backward, which causes the turbines to pump water from a river or lower reservoir to an upper reservoir where the power is stored. To use the power, water is released from the upper reservoir back down into the river or lower reservoir. This spins the turbine forward, activating the generators to produce electricity. So, small hydroelectric plants or micro hydroelectric power system does not necessarily require a large dam, but just use a small canal to channel the river water through a turbine, which can produce enough electricity for a home, farm or a small village. So, next we will talk about the wind energy. We know wind has also a power, great power, and kinetic energy of the wind can be changed into other forms of energy, either mechanical energy or electrical energy. When a boat lifts a sail, it is using wind energy to push it through the water. This is also one form of energy. Farmers has been using wind energy for many years to pump water from wells using windmills. So, wind energy is also a clean renewable energy source produced by the daily cooling and heating patterns on the surface of the earth, and it can be harnessed to produce electricity, pump water, grind grains and move sailing vessels. So, next we will talk about wave energy. Oceans and sea waves are caused indirectly by solar energy. Wave energy is derived from wind energy, which is driven in turn from solar energy, and this energy may be converted to mechanical energy and then to first mechanical energy and then convert to electrical energy. So, next we will talk about the ocean thermal energy conversion. Conversion of solar energy stored as a heat in the ocean into electrical energy by making use of temperature differences between the warm surface water and the colder deep water. Geothermal energy refers to energy contained in underground rocks and fluids, although it can be used to heat home and other buildings. So, we will talk about geothermal energy. Thermal or heat energy deep within the earth may heat water or form steam. Geothermal energy is used to power steam turbines and generate electricity. This heat is a result of the increase in temperature of the earth with increasing depth below the surface. So, next we will talk about the fuel cell technology. Before going to fuel cell technology, we just back to the geothermal energy, because geothermal energy which comes from inside the earth, that is the energy contained in underground rocks and fluids. So, it is responsible for heating of water of hot water springs. So, now we will talk about fuel cell technology is also renewable energy sources, and fuel cells are devices that these are the devices that directly convert hydrogen into electricity. To use hydrogen, it must be separated from these other elements, and hydrogen as a fuel is high in energy and a very promising clean fuel. We know hydrogen a gas. Hydrogen is a colorless, odorless gas that found on earth only in combination with other elements like oxygen, carbon and nitrogen. So, a fuel cell converts hydrogen and oxygen from the air into electricity. A machine that burns pure hydrogen produces energy and pure water without causing any pollution. And fuel cells are a promising technology for use as a source of heat and electricity in buildings and as an electrical power source for vehicle. Some algae and bacteria also use sunlight as their energy source. give off hydrogen under certain conditions, and large amount of energy is needed to produce hydrogen from water. So, it will not come into its own as a clean alternative until renewable energy is widely available for the process in the future. Hydrogen could substitute electricity as an important energy carrier. An energy carrier stores, moves and delivers energy in a usable form to consumer, and renewable energy sources like sun cannot produce energy all the time. Sometimes cloudy weather, so solar energy cannot be produced. So sun does not, as we already says, sun always does not always shine, but hydrogen can store this energy until it is needed and can be transported to whenever it is required. So this is all about different types of renewable energy. Now we will move to the next type of energy, that is non-renewable energy. So non-renewable energies have a limited amount of stock available, and regeneration rate of non-renewable energy resources is negligible when compared with the rate of consumption. So that is non-renewable energy that we are using up cannot be recreated in a short period of time, or at least in our lifetime. And when we talk about the examples of non-renewable energy, so major example or main example is fossil fuels, and fossil fuels, as we know, are the important energy sources. So fossil fuels include coal, lignite, peat are found under the ground and below the sea floor in solid and liquid form and gaseous form. Fossil fuels are the remains of ancient plants and animals life that are found on earth at the era of dinosaurs. Fossil fuel energy is released in the form of heat. So first we will talk about oil or petroleum is a liquid fossil fuel that is found under the ground and below the sea floor. Fossil fuels were formed before and during the time of the dinosaurs. When plants and animals died, their decomposed remains gradually changed over the years to form coal, oil and natural gas. So oil and natural gas is formed by complex decay processes from microscopic life forms called phytoplanktons. It is a plant, they were the tiny plants called algae which floated in the world's oceans millions of years ago. Just like today's phytoplanktons, they harness and store the solar energy through the process of photosynthesis. And zooplankton, they are also very tiny animals which eat phytoplanktons, but themselves are the main food for the fish and other fishes like whales. So when these myriads of tiny floating plants died, they sank into the sea floor and got buried and slowly hardened into rocks. Heat from the earth's interior and the weight of the overlying rocks gradually changed the energy containing substances in the buried phytoplanktons into liquid hydrocarbons and gases. So hydrocarbons, we can say, are the simple molecules made up of carbon and hydrogen atoms joined together in chains or in the ring. These molecules, being light and mobile, migrated upwards through the rock, but eventually became trapped beneath impermeable rock structure in the earth crust. So petroleum is one of our most vital resource, and it also provides about 40% of the commercial energy used in the world. So during the past 30 or 40 years, when we saw back, consumption of petroleum has grown more steeply other than any energy sources. Fossil fuels took millions of years to form, and we are using up the fuel formed more than 65 million years ago. They cannot be renewed, they cannot be made again. So just as this, we have to save fossil fuels by conserving them and finding ways to harness energy from seemingly endless sources like the sun and the wind. So, when we talk about how can we get oil. So, oil is obtained or petroleum is obtained by drilling deep wells into the ground and then pump it out. Oil can be converted into gasoline. Both oil and gasoline are burned in automobiles and in airplanes. We depend on oil for 90% of our transport and for food, pharmaceuticals and chemicals industry. Our modern ways of life is totally dependent on oil and gas, but oil industry experts estimate that current reserves will only last for about 40 to 50 years. So, next for non-renewable resources, natural gas. Natural gas is also a fossil fuel, as fossil fuel we know, and that is the natural gas is a mixture of gases beneath under the ground. Natural gas is collected and transported almost the same way as oil we collect. Natural gas burns in home furnaces and cooking ranges, and it is now being used in cars and buses for transportation in the form of compressed natural gas or CNG. So, next fossil fuel or non-renewable source of energy is coal, and coal is the most common solid fuel, fossil fuel, which was used as a primary source of energy in homes and industries too. It is found under the ground in solid form and have to be mined and transported for use. And our country has large coal reserves in Bihar and Jharkhand area. And coal is mostly carbon but contains small amounts of sulfur. It is formed from plants, mostly trees which grew millions of years ago in low-lying swampy areas. When these trees died, they sank to the bottom of the swamp. In the swamp, they did not rot fully as there was no air. Partially decayed plant matter in swamp and bogs is called peat, which has low heat content. These peats get covered by sand and mud as water subsides. Most material is deposited on them for years, and the plant matter gets converted into coal under high pressure and heat. And that is, plant material get metamorphosed into coal in millions of years, and this is the most plentiful fossil fuel, but it is a very polluting source of air pollution, and we can say fossil fuel coal is the major source of global warming and climate change. So, now we will discuss another type of energy resource, that is nuclear energy. So, nuclear energy is liberated from a nuclear reaction, fission or fusion, or by hydroactive decay. In a conventional nuclear reactor, isotopes of uranium and plutonium undergo controlled nuclear fission. The resulting heat produces steam that in turn spins turbine to generate electricity. So, we will take a little break. After break, we will continue nuclear energy.
ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो। धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोट से युक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
मित्रों हम पढ़े और जागे,
मंजिल आने की ध्वनि सुने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालय का है द्वार खुला सबकी खातिर। शिक्षा परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर।
शिक्षा परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर। दुनिया में इसके केंद्र बहुत,
कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने।
Before taking a break, we have discussed about what is energy. We have discussed two laws of thermodynamics. We have discussed types of resources, energy resources, that is renewable resources, includes wind energy, solar energy, hydropower energy, hydrogen fuel cell technology, and we have discussed non-renewable energy resources in detail like coal, petrol and petroleum and natural gases. And now we will discuss another type of energy resource, that is nuclear energy. We have talked about nuclear energy. Nuclear energy is liberated from a nuclear reactor, fission or fusion, or by radioactive decay. In a conventional nuclear reactor, isotopes of uranium and plutonium undergoes controlled nuclear fission, and resulting heat produces steam that is turned spin turbines to generate electricity. So, large fuel supply, low immediate environmental impact, low emission of carbon dioxide, low chances of accidents because of multiple safety systems make this energy much wanted resource. Unlike other energy resources, nuclear energy produces highly radioactive materials that must be kept safely for thousands of years until their radioactivity falls to safe levels. So, also when the useful life of a nuclear reactor comes to an end, it cannot be shut down and abandoned like a coal burning plant. So, it contains large quantity of radioactive materials that must be kept out of the environment for many thousands of years, and safety measures makes nuclear power plant very expensive to build and maintain. So, however, management of a nuclear waste disposal, its vulnerability to direct attacks and misuse of the technology for making nuclear weapons make it a difficult choice, and it remains world's slowest growing energy sector. So, now we will move the worrying sign. As couples of centuries ago, virtually everyone would have depended on a fuel that could find within a short distance from home, but now fuel required for heat and light travels vast distances to reach us, sometimes crossing not only continents but political and cultural watersheds on the way. And these distances create a whole host of challenges, from oil related political instability to the environmental risk of long distance pipelines. So, also we can not use fossil fuels forever, as they are a non-renewable and finite sources. So, International Energy Agency says the world will need almost 60% more energy in 2030s than in 2002, and most fossil fuels still meet most of its need. So, not everyone depends on the fossil fuels. Nearly a third of the today's world population have no electricity or other modern energy supplies, and another third have only limited access of energy resources. So, look at the graph. This shows this graph covered global energy, primary energy resource demand, and unit of measurement is million tons of oil equivalent, and time span given is 1971 to 2030. So, key observation, and this source is TEA, and key observation of this graph is steady growth. The line rises consistently, indicating that global energy demand has an increasing over time. Historical data we can see 1971 to 2020, the demand has grown significantly, suggesting industrialization, population growth and increased energy consumption worldwide. and projected future, the upward trend continues towards 2030, implying the demand is expected to keep rising unless major shift occur in energy efficiency or consumption habits. So, approximate energy label is 1971 4000, 2002 10,000, 1990 we see 8,000, 2020 we see 14,000 million, and 2030 it goes rise 17,000 plus. So, why it matters? Environmental impact. Rising energy demand often correlates with increased carbon emission unless clean energy sources are adopted. Governments and industries use such projections to plan infrastructure, energy sourcing and sustainability goals, and the growing demand highlights the urgency for renewable energy technologies and energy efficient systems. So, however, we can also get energy to do several jobs at once as combined heat and power plants do, and we can use less it by the becoming energy efficient. Cheap available energy is essential for ending poverty. Ending poverty is key to easing the pressures on the planet from the abjectly poor who have no choice but to eat and the seed corn. Our energy use is unsustainable, but we already know what a benign alternative would looks like. What large amount of energy are needed to produce hydrogen from water, so it will not come into its own as a clean alternative until renewable energy is widely available for the process. So, this is all about importance of energy in our society. Dear learner, before we wrap up, we would like to recap the main points. So, energy is defined as ability to do work, and power is the rate of energy delivery. It is required by all living organisms including humans. Nothing can move or work without the use of energy. Behavior and transformation of energy is strictly governed by the laws of thermodynamics. First law depicts energy can neither be created or destroyed, and second law says energy transformation are never 100% efficient, that is at each step of energy transformation some amount of energy is lost as waste heat. Conventional unit of measuring energy is gram calorie, and various energy resources are broadly divided into two categories: renewable and non-renewable resources. Renewable energy is the term used to describe energy that comes from sources whose supplies are regenerative and virtually inexhaustible, and the most important and inexhaustible source of energy is sun. Solar energy is harnessed by green plants by the process of photosynthesis for making food, and the biomass which is subsequently used as energy source by animal including man. Other renewable sources of energy include solar energy, biomass, wind energy, hydroelectric energy, geothermal energy, wave or tidal energy. Non-renewable sources have limited amount of stock available. Regeneration rate of non-renewable energy sources is negligible when compared with the rate of consumption. Fossil fuels are important non-renewable energy source, and fossil fuels are found under the ground and below the sea floor in liquid and gaseous form, and also remain of plant and animals life found on the earth. Fossil fuel energy is released in the form of heat. Fossil fuel is hydrocarbons, and they include coal, lignite, wheat, petroleum and natural gas. And there is growing emphasis to promote the use of renewable energy sources to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels, because the later will exhaust it soon. Growing use of fossil fuel has increased the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, leading to global warming and climate change. And fossil fuels are non-renewable and finite sources, and we can't use them forever. Nuclear energy is liberated by a nuclear reaction or by radioactive decays. So, nuclear power is generated in a specially designed nuclear power plant that converts nuclear energy into useful power such as mechanical or electrical power. In a nuclear electric power plant, heat produced by a reactor is generally used to make steam to drive a turbine that in turn drives as electric generator. So, this is all about importance of energy in society. We will come again to meet in new program of environmental science. Till then, goodbye and